there's something we need to talk about, and it's Bruno Fernandes.
Yep.
There's been growing news in the last sort of 7 days that there's been an offer from Al Hilal that Bruno Fernandes is considering it. There's then been reports and talks that his agent has flown out to Saudi Arabia to sort of discuss this potential deal. It also is being reported in The Athletic as of this week as well, that Bruno Fernandes is giving serious consideration to an approach from Al Hilal while talks continuing in Saudi Arabia. That's from Laurie Whitwell, obviously, friend of the channel, host of the Inside United podcast, absolute stone clad or ironclad journalist in terms of reliability. So if he says it, I believe that it's true. Before we get into the details, whether we think it'll happen or not, do you think we should sell Bruno Fernandes?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But I know this will be a short debate because I know you don't either. I'm trying to play devil's advocate. I've tried to look at it and go, okay, I mentioned this on my news the other day. Could this be a Felipe Coutinho moment for Manchester United where Liverpool use that money to reinvest in the team and, you know, buy the likes of Mo Salah and Andy Robertson or whoever it was and Virgil van Dijk, and I would obviously, you know, have a sort of more or less a golden period under Jurgen Klopp. Could we do that? I'm worried that we won't do that. I'm worried that Ineos' track record so far, they've not had loads of windows, but they've brought in some decent players, but we've had players with injury issues, and after their transfer window, or their 2 transfer windows, we still finished 15th. And one of the other reasons I'm sort of sceptical about this deal, or this deal sort of not worries me as such, I just don't get it, is I don't get it from Bruno's point of view. And this might sound insane, right, because I know money makes the world go round and everything, but he's a rich guy anyway. He's got enough money. I know it's lots and lots of money, but he's one of the best midfielders in the world right now. Ronaldo wasn't the best striker in the world when he went to Saudi. He used to be.
When he went to Madrid, he was.
Yeah, when he went to Madrid, of course he was. When he went to Juve, he still was. Even when he came to us, that first season, he probably still was. It was 18 Premier League goals, which, you know, we chop our hands off for that now, wouldn't we? But by the time he'd gone to Saudi, he dropped off a bit, and it was like he's in the twilight of his career. Get it? Bruno Fernandes, right now, is one of the best midfielders in the world.
Yeah.
And he's basically going into semi-retirement to play in front of a handful of fans in a league, and I'm no disrespect to the Saudi Arabia League, but let's get real. No one gives a toss about it. No one cares, right? They just don't. And you can see this when players are linked with a move to a club. They're not even linked with a move to a club. They're linked with a move to Saudi.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine saying, oh, Casemiro's been linked with a move to England. Well, where in England? Who? Like, it's just this whole sort of thing of, oh, he's got a Saudi. It doesn't even matter where he's going because it's almost insignificant. We just need to get real. From his point of view, to go there, I think would be insane. And he might, yes, he'll have more money than he's ever had and all the rest of it, but he's still a rich man. He could still go there in a few years. And I still think he's got a lot to offer. Me and you've had this discussion so many times. Bruno Fernandes is fit as a fiddle. He's never injured. And players of that class, I've seen it with the likes of Paul Scholes and Michael Carrick. They adapt the game. And I am putting him in that sort of bracket of someone who can do those kind of things. I'm not saying he's as good as Scholes or Carrick, but he's not that a million miles away from him. Giggs did it. Giggs was a winger for like 15 years and then became a central midfielder. Not just a central midfielder, almost like a deep line one. He completely altered his game and he was able to do it. And I think Bruno Fernandes, as time gets on, and he might not have the energy to get around the pitch, can adapt his game because he can pick a pass almost as well as anyone in the world.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot to offer. So why go there? Oh yeah, but Jay's going to win hundreds of millions. But he's going to be playing a league no one gives a toss about. Winning trophies if he wins them, no one cares about. When he could actually stay in England, help Manchester United to rebuild. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. And hopefully do a Brian Robson. Be part of a team or a squad that gets back to winning titles. Because let's be honest, if we'd have sold Brian Robson when he was 30, people would have probably gone, okay, he's been at United for 10 years, he's not really won out, the big ones, fair enough. He stayed and he helped us win a couple of titles, and I think Bruno Fernandes, he should at least want to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just think it's a bad idea, and I think, look at let's say we get 80 million for him, 100 million for him. You can get that from selling Garnacho, Rashford and Antony.
Exactly.
There's your 100 million.
And they're right now, pretty worthless to United.
Yeah.
Garnacho doesn't want to be there. The manager doesn't want him there. That's untenable. Marcus Rashford, if I have to talk about Marcus Rashford anymore, I'm going to jump off Barton Bridge. I'm sick of it. He's gone. He's going. He needs to go. End of.
Yeah.
Jadon Sancho, ditto.
Yeah, even more so, really.
Yeah.
At least Rashford's brought us some good times with United.
Like,
Sancho,
just get him gone. Get them all gone and use that money for players that actually can do something for Manchester United.
Yeah, and I just think that with Bruno as well, he hasn't got. I know he's it's a kind of a balancing act between his body being worn down by playing so many games, but he hasn't got a body that's been sort of slowly calcifying around injuries and injuries and injuries, where he's, look at Kevin De Bruyne, he's 33 years old and he's past his best comfortably. But Kevin De Bruyne has had an injury-riddled career in the way that Bruno Fernandes hasn't. He hasn't had muscles going back together, ankle tweaks that are getting worse and worse. He's been someone that has been injury-free almost his whole life. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't at least be good enough for Man United in 4 years' time. Yeah. And I think if you get another 4 years out of him, playing anywhere near the level that he's been at for the last 4 years, he's worth more to us than 100 million quid. Not just on the pitch, but off the pitch. There's a good point in Laurie's article at the end of the season when it talked about Joshua Zirkzee getting booed off or booed down the touchline as he got subbed off against Newcastle. It was Newcastle, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was at that game.
And Bruno Fernandes wasn't even playing that day. I think he was actually injured, wasn't he? I think the only game he's ever been injured for Man United. And at half time or before half time, he was in one of the directors' seats. He went back into the stadium, down to the dressing room, and sat and spoke with Joshua Zirkzee, comforted him and said, you need to go back out there. You need to show your face and show to these fans that you're someone that isn't going to be crushed by the weight of Manchester United. And he came back out, and the public opinion of Joshua Zirkzee, I think, turned that day. And I'm not just giving Bruno Fernandes all the credit for that. It must have been difficult for Zirkzee, and it would have been, a horrible moment for him. But for stuff like that, not everyone does that. No. You could replace Bruno Fernandes as captain, and the next captain might not do that. And like we said before about this post-season tour, Bruno Fernandes is there, smiling, signing autographs. There aren't that many in the squad that are. We're seeing stuff with Ahmad, again, the details of which are a little bit foggy, and if people are abusing him, then I get it. We've seen Garnacho there with a face like a slapped arse, signing autographs. Bruno Fernandes is a shining example as a captain off the pitch as well. And I think you lose so much by him not being there. You just do. And who are you going to rely on when we're in a big game? And I know in the Europa League finally he didn't play very well. But think of the games against City and Liverpool and Chelsea and Arsenal in the past where he's shown up time and time again. Who are you going to rely on in those big moments? I think it would be such a bad idea. And 100 million quid is a lot of money. But we've wasted far more than that in the last decade. Yeah. We could comfortably waste it again.
Yeah, I think a couple. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And even that game, I think he was actually suspended. It wasn't. Yeah, I think it was yellow cards that had accumulated rather than injured. Because, like you say, he doesn't get injured. Yeah. He isn't. And you're right. Like, this is the thing that people don't get about the knock-on effects as well of certain players. Right. The reason the Class of '92 was so good was because they had the example of players like Eric Cantona, like Steve Bruce, like. Who else was there? Gary Pallister. They had players like Roy Keane, like Paul Ince, experienced pros that when they came into that squad were there and setting examples. And Paul Scholes and David Beckham have spoke about the example that Eric set, doing extra training, maintaining the standards. Rio Ferdinand, I think, spoke about the example that those senior players came when he got to the club. I think Roy Keane was quite harsh with him in training about passing backwards or whatever, like you go forward. Those maintain the standards. You take away one of the only players that is a really, really good, great example to the likes of Kobbie Mainoo. I know he's been around for a little while now, in 18 months, whatever, in the first team, but some of these players we're talking about, like Morehouse and Camerson or, Lacey or whatever, you take away one of the few, and you're leaving yourself with maybe Lisandro Martinez, who's injured again, or Casemiro, who don't know how long he's going to be at the club, and he's not even first team if everyone's fit anymore. There's not many, is there? No. There's not many leaders there. There's not many people that set a great example. And even on like the pitch as well, in terms of what they can do, you can learn something if you're Kobbie Mainoo from playing alongside Bruno Fernandes. You can learn something about passing, about just the sort of technical side of the game from watching him and learning from him. Are you going to be learning that without him as well as you can do? Maybe not. So I just think on so many levels this is a flawed idea. And even though I want to play devil's advocate, I want to go, look, we could get, let's say, we get 100 million and we go out and we buy. Let's say, for example, we buy Victor Gyökeres and we get, I don't know, Edison from Atalanta with that money. Does that make us, on the whole, better? Maybe, but maybe not. No. And there's a chance. And also, is it that simple? Do we just go, we've got the money, now we're going to buy the player? All right, if we've got the money, right, let's go and get Liam Delap. Are we getting him?
No. He's
just been relegated. Surely we can get him. He's only scored 12 goals. We'll go and get him.
Go to Chelsea.
Oh, he's got a Chelsea?
Yep.
Oh, right, okay. Right, sound. So we can't get him then?
No.
Well, surely we can just get whoever else we want then. Surely there's loads of other tigers we've got.
Frimpong at right.
Yeah, we can get Frimpong. Yeah. What about Kirk? Because he's decent. We can get him. Yeah. Like, no. We can't just go out and get the players we want just because we've got money in the bank. Because A, we're not paying the silly wages that we used to pay, so we can't offer him that carrot. B, we haven't got Champions League football. We haven't got European football, let alone Champions League football to offer him. And C, we can't realistically say to a player, if you come to Manchester United, you're going to be involved in a title race. Because the first thing they're going to say to us is, no, I fucking ain't. Because you haven't been involved in a title race since 2013, so shut up.
I completely agree. I mean, looking at United's squad 3 years ago as well, and again, it wasn't the best team of all time, but you look at some of the names in there, some of the top class players that we had in there, and like we had Cavani, Ronaldo, Varane, we had Bruno Fernandes, we had Paul Pogba in there. You know, we had David De Gea again. Was past his best by that time.
He's almost like I talk about Mason Greenwood.
Yeah,
was one of the brightest young talents in the world.
And you go through, and you end up being, stripping that squad of all the talent it had, to the point where now the one last remaining world-class player from that team will be gone. And I just think it's a completely terrible idea. Completely terrible. There's no reason why we can't improve as a team with Bruno Fernandes there. So why would you ever risk getting rid of him? I just don't see it.
What message does it send?
Yeah.
What message, right? If I'm a dad, right, well, I'm a dad. If my lad, right, it was ever good enough to play for Manchester United, and he was like that to me, is it worth me, go to United, should I go to United or other clubs interested? It's only because I'm such a die-hard United fan that I'd be like, no, you're going to United. Because I think if you look at it objectively, you think that club's going nowhere. No. Yeah. No, don't go to United.
Selling off their best players to inferior leagues for cash.
Yeah.
But it's like literally taking your fucking mum's necklace to cash converters.
Isn't it?
Like, that's how desperate we are.
Yeah.
It's like, it does mean a lot to her. It's literally the only thing she likes about an otherwise horrendous life. Not that my mum's got a horrendous life. I'm going to trade that in. Because the fucking 18 quid matters more to me than everything else that goes along with it.
Are you saying we've basically turned into heroin addicts?
I'm not saying that. It feels like that.
I'll have you know, the days of me got a cash converter are well behind me, so just shut it.
Sorry. That wasn't meant to be a personal attack.
No, you're right though. It smacks of desperation. We're turning into everything we used to hate. We've become a laughing stock. We're having parades in the streets of Malaysia after finishing 15th. It's all going wrong. Keep Bruno Fernandes and stop messing about.